I can't be more excited today to be hosting Stacy. Stacy is someone I have admired for years now. I think I first discovered her work on LinkedIn. So if you aren't following her yet, please do. She gives the most like action-oriented, thoughtful posts. They're so authentic. And I think the first one I ever read of yours, it just spoke right to me. It was
Yeah.
like, wrong school, wrong degree.
Yeah. We'll
The
talk about
only
it. Yeah.
girl in the toughest
Yeah.
boys club. And I was like, who is this rock star? So yeah, and I've learned so
Thank
much
you.
from you. I can't be more excited for everyone to benefit from what you're going to share today. Um, let's see, just a couple little housekeeping things. As I mentioned, we're going to use the chat for our Q&A. So Stacy will take over and do a presentation so you don't have to listen to this crazy voice for too much longer. And we'll make time for Q&A at the end. Also, I hope you guys can stick around to the very end. We have a really fun sponsor for these, Gift Suite, which is run by this amazing woman, Sangeeta Verma, out of LA. She does the most thoughtful, eco-friendly, handcrafted gift bags. I should say they're not baskets, they're bags, because everything is eco-friendly and reusable. But we're going to award those to one of our participants, and Stacy will send you one as well.
Fun.
Yeah, she's
Yay.
awesome. Um, Otherwise, next Thursday, we'll be hosting Jason Ma, and he's going to be presenting at 1 o'clock on preparing next-gen leaders for greatness. So I'll follow up
Love
with the
that.
recording, and I'll include a registration link for that. And I think that's really it. I will share with you guys a little bit about Stacy's backstory. I'm hoping you'll share your story,
I
but
will. Yeah.
yeah. So do you think I should even read your bio? I was going to read your
You
bio,
know,
but
oh, you don't have to. Don't read bios. I'm so not a
right?
fan of that.
I
No, no.
mean, well, in
Don't.
your
And it's all, you
bio,
know why too? Here's like, this is a good tip for everybody. Like if you're in a meeting and you're traveling with someone, so if Danielle and I were traveling, like I'm there.
yeah,
So like to have somebody else read your bio when you're sitting there, it's just awkward for everyone. It's like, it's awkward for me. It's awkward
yeah.
for Danielle. So like, no, don't do that.
All
You
right,
don't
I'm
have
not
to
going
do
to do
that.
it anymore.
Don't.
Every master
No,
class, I'm like, nope,
no,
end the
no.
bios.
Let people
Awesome.
introduce themselves that they're,
Okay.
I think that's right. You got this. Go
Oh,
rest your voice.
yes, right. I've got my tea here.
Yeah, there you go.
Awesome. Well, without further ado, then I'll let Stacy take it over.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Danielle, for having me as a guest. And I'm looking forward to meeting some of your community members. The feeling that Danielle described a few minutes ago is very mutual. So it's an honor to be here. I feel really lucky, very grateful. So I thought, to the point about don't have someone read your bio if you're sitting there with them, I thought I would share my story with you, the way I tell my backstory, because certainly if you follow me, you know, story's my jam. Everything we do at Havener is story centered. So I figured let's put that to work. So my name is Stacy Havener. I'm the founder and CEO of a sales and marketing agency called Havener Capital. In my career, I've raised over 8 billion. That's led to 30 billion in follow-on AUM for investment boutiques against some incredible odds and in one of the toughest boys clubs, Wall Street. Now, on paper, none of that makes sense. I'm a blue-collar kid from a working class town who got the wrong degree from the wrong school, and I'm a woman. I never saw myself in the investment world. I actually wanted to be a college professor in literature. I was a writer, a poet, a storyteller, but I paid my way through university and I was going to have to pay my way through grad school. My high school soccer coach and I stayed in touch. He ran a $1 billion small cap equity boutique and he was going to launch a new fund. So he knew my situation. He offered me a job, come work here, help me launch the fund, save some money, and then you can go back to grad school. I never left the industry. I helped him launch the fund. We raised 500 million in 2 years, and then I raised 3 billion in 3 years for a $17 million fund, and so on and so forth. It turns out that in a world full of men who love numbers, there was a place for a girl who loved words. And it was fun. I didn't know I was doing anything special. It took me a few more years to realize I was doing something that was really difficult, raising money for startups and new funds. And it took me probably another 10 years to unpack what I was doing. And at the heart of it was storytelling. I was helping people connect with each other at a human level, because at the end of the day, people do business with people, even here in the investment world. Today, I'm lucky to lead the team at Havener, where we help investment boutiques grow using our narrative-led sales and marketing system. I truly believe everyone has a story, and we're on a mission to help boutiques use that story to shape their success.
You did that so
So
much better than I could have.
yay! So before I even turn the presentation on, I want to give you, in case you want to work on your backstory, and we're going to talk about this in the conversation today, but in case you want to work on the backstory while my story is fresh in your mind, the trick of it is you don't have to start at the beginning, right? I jumped right into the messy middle. I actually started with my success and then took you back, right? And the trick is to find the thread in your backstory that you can pull forward to today. So I kind of showed you why I was the guide to help investment boutiques. And I ended with like tying it together to what we do now. So that's the trick with a backstory. So I'm kind of using my intro as even just a little lesson here. And I hope that's inspiring for you.
So inspiring. I love it.
Good. And you can all practice your backstory. Now, let's see how talented I am at tech. And the answer is not very. Let's try this though. And I'm going to try to make this full screen somehow, which I know there's a way to do that. And
Love this
someone could tell me.
Slingshot.
Yeah. Okay. Full screen mode. How does
Boom.
this look? Pretty
Perfect.
good?
Full screen.
Okay. All right. Your story is your slingshot. My LinkedIn post today was inspired by this talk and you all, because I used this phrase and bolded it for you. How boutiques can beat the odds. Let's dive in. I probably don't have to tell you this, and I don't want you to feel like I'm pouring arsenic into your coffee or tea, but the industry is out of whack. It's out of balance. The biggest firms control all the money. And typically, right, in math, we know the Pareto principle is that 20% of the firms would have 80% of the assets. In the investment industry, it's like 3%. 3% of the firms have the money. And so this is a problem. I'm sure this is not sitting well with you. It doesn't sit well with me or our team at Havener, and we got to do something about it. The challenge is for most of us as investment boutiques, we know we need a system. We know we need a sales and marketing strategy. We want to grow our businesses. And so we look for, what can I do? How do I do this? And of course, we look at kind of who do we want to be when we grow up? And let's say that's BlackRock. And we say, great, then I'm going to use BlackRock's strategy to try to grow my firm. But there's a big problem. Okay, we're not BlackRock. We're not BlackRock. And the stuff that works for BlackRock from a sales and marketing perspective does not work for us as boutiques. We can't even step to the budget and the size of team and all the things that BlackRock can do. We don't have that. And so we make a critical error when we try to beat them at their game. And that's what I want to talk about today. How can you just let BlackRock do its thing? Great place, great firm, fine. Has, investors use it, obviously, a lot, fine. That doesn't mean there's not also a place for specialists and boutiques like us. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a different playbook. There's our friend, the Slingshot. Now, if you know the story of David and Goliath, David wins. Well, we know that, right? This is like the perennial underdog story of all time. But there's some nuance to this that's kind of interesting. And how David won. We know it was, the slingshot and a rock, but Goliath showed up with like, he was huge and he had like armor and artillery and weapons and all kinds of things. Like, he like brought the thunder, okay? Now, to go back to our BlackRock example, what if David had tried to do that? Can you imagine, Danielle? Like,
Oh
David
my
shows up and
gosh.
he's just got armor. I mean, I don't even know what the armor would have been. And he's
Intimidation
trying,
tactic.
yeah, he's a smaller statured person. And
Ready
he's
to
gonna
go.
try to, yeah, you can't beat Goliath at
Yeah.
Goliath's game. Instead, he said, what am I really, really good at? What is my unique ability? What is my special sauce? It's this slingshot and a rock. And boom, right between the eyes. Thank you.
Mm.
I didn't need all the artillery. I didn't need all the noise. I did it my way using my strengths. And I hope that, like, I have goosebumps. I hope that
Such a good
inspires you.
story. Such a
Yeah,
good story.
because you don't need to try to out BlackRock them.
Amazing.
All right. This is the blueprint we use at Havener for all our clients. It looks really simple. That's by design. Okay. If I were to redo it, and maybe I'll have our marketing team redo it, I would put like a big heart in the middle of it and say story or something, because story is at the literal heart of everything we do here. And if you started at the top of the star and worked your way around, we help clients craft their story. We help them build an audience, right? We help them use thought leadership, an incredible equalizer, to find their fans and grow their business. That's it. And it sounds so simple. It's not easy.
Right.
But it's simple. Nowhere in here is it like hire 100 people, get a PR agency, buy a speaking spot at the next Schwab Impact Conference. Like, there's none of that. Okay,
Right.
you don't need to do that. All right. Now, Danielle, do you want people to ask questions as we go, or do you want me to wait till the end? How do you normally do it?
In the past, we've kind of let people drop questions in and then take them to the end. But guys, feel free. I've got the chat open. So if anyone has burning questions, I mean, I know it feels weird to just be speaking to me.
I know. And then
But
I'm like,
guys,
Danielle, do you want to add
right
anything?
in.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll keep going then. And this is, I don't know if you've heard of this project. It's the Significant Objects Project. And I have it in here really just as a reminder that the power of narrative and the power of story, it's not that it just works in certain instances or it just works in certain industries. It's kind of a universal thing because it's a human thing. Humans connect with story and they value things with story more than things without. So this was a cool project where they took stuff that they bought on eBay for like no money, and they had writers create narratives around all these things. The average price, I think, was like $1 of what they bought. They sold it for a big profit. A big profit. I mean, these are small dollars, obviously, but a 2,700% profit.
Oh my God.
And the point they wanted to drive home was like, it's not so much the thing.
Yes.
It's the narrative around the thing.
I've never heard that study. That is so cool. That's
and
awesome.
that's what we have to remember about our funds or strategies or services that we're offering, is that people don't just buy the what, they don't just buy the result, they buy the why and all of the magic that's around it too. Maybe even more than just the thing, right?
Yeah.
So let's stay with this thread about the behavioral piece, because I think in our business especially, what happens is we go into a meeting, or even if we're crafting marketing materials, we go into it with, okay, this is the investment world. These people are smart. So I need to appeal to their mind. I'm going to aim everything I'm doing at their mind and their brain. I'm gonna do charts and data and performance and stats and all kinds of things that intellectually they should understand this is a really good, fun strategy, whatever it is you're selling. Big problem. That's not how human beings operate. Okay. The human body, psyche, whatever word you want to insert there, is designed to make life easy for your brain. And one of the ways it does it is that the heart, sort of your emotions, are the filter. So you actually need the heart to buy first to give the brain a signal that says, hey, brain, this is cool. I kind of like this.
Yes.
You should engage and do a little bit more work on it and make sure that it's like legit and passes muster and all the due diligence stuff that we know needs to happen. But it starts here. And what happens is we skip it. And we're aiming here. And worse, by the way, is we're aiming at their wallet.
Oh,
right? We've all been there when you're getting pitch slapped and you're just like, I can't, this is so aggressive.
You go straight into defense mode. Yeah.
You go straight into defense mode. And so how can we pause? Like all those charts and data are, that's all important and it's gonna come into play, but it needs to be second.
Yes.
It's story-led so that you can engage the emotion and connect as people, and then data-backed.
Love that. It's like connect with the heart, get that buy-in, get that connection. And that's like at these family office conferences I went to over the past 2 weeks, presentation after presentation. And I saw a lot of, slides, like stats, and you're like snooze fest, it's the ones that get there and have energy and they make you laugh. Like that's what you remember.
100%. I was talking to a fairly large investment boutique. We would probably call them a big, but by definition, they're probably still a boutique, even though they're double-digit billions.
Wow.
And they were asking me for, consulting help, like how we're losing all these finals. And I said, okay, well, tell me, like when you go into a meeting. Well, this is what I said, and then I'll tell you what happened. I said, how often does someone laugh? Okay, so I said laugh, and they were like, they're British. They were like,
no laugh.
No one laughs. We're very serious. Okay, let me rephrase. How often does someone smile?
Right. Like, yeah, no, none of that either.
No. And to Danielle's point, like Boringville, no one signs up so that they're like, ooh, that looks like a boring professional presentation. Let me go to that. Like, that's just not how it happens. And again, I know this sounds so basic, but team, like it is this simple. All right, let's keep going. And so I put this in here so that in case you're like, okay, maybe this gal just got lucky a couple times. It's not luck. Okay, I'm not going to read you all the things on here.
Like, it works. It works. True. For those that are obsessed with numbers, here you go.
Yeah, here's the data backed part. This is data backed. I gave you the story, and now I'm showing you that it works.
Rock star.
Yeah, we'll move on. Okay, so I got to move Danielle's face here. Okay. I love this slide. Rogers adoption curve. You know it well. Probably from tech. This is mostly talked about in terms of technology. It basically says that, there is a distribution, a bell curve of adoption, and users of technology fall somewhere on this distribution. I would argue it's not a technology thing. It's a human thing.
I love that.
This applies to investors as well. And what happens is you can't skip it. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to go over onto the other end of the curve. And I'm going to tell you why that happens a lot with investment boutiques. So if we were going to plot investors on this curve, and I think we have a blog about that. I should have got the link ready for you, but I'll give it to Danielle.
Awesome. I'll include it in the follow-up.
Yeah. So family offices, okay, are on the front half of the curve. Innovators and early adopters, along with independent RIAs, people who are in, groups that are independent, that can make their own decisions with their money. They buy for different reasons. They're on this side of the chasm. They buy for different reasons or invest for different reasons than the people on the other side of the chasm, who are the, some endowments and foundations, not all, definitely the big consultants, the big pension plans, the big sovereign wealth funds. They are, early or late majority or even laggards. Okay. They buy after everyone else is already in. It has to have, this is the typical thing, X years of track, pass all these ODD checkbox things, sizable AUM. What happens is, as an investment boutique, we say, oh, you know what? I need money. I need to grow my biz. So I need big dollars. So I'm going to go call all the consultants. I just started my firm. I have seed capital in there, no track record. And I'm going to call the big consultants and just like, let's see it. A classic one is for a breakaway manager. Let's say you were running $20 billion at a big shop, and then you spin out and start your own thing, hang your shingle. Okay. And you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to be thoughtful about this. I'm going to call all my largest investors from my previous firm. I'm going to call them. And let's say they had $1 billion with me at my previous firm. They could just give me like 1% of that. Right? Some small amount, right? And they won't. It's not a math game. It's a curve game. They are not going to be your first investor, typically. What the exercise should be is, who invested with you first at the previous firm before you were 20 billion? Call them.
Yes.
Because they're probably on this side of the curve. So what happens is we spend a lot of energy and resources and time talking to a group that just is not ready to invest. They're just not ready. So save that. The family offices, the independent RIAs, they buy because they believe in the founder. They believe in the story. They like having access to the manager. Yes, of course, they like the strategy and all those things, but there's much more to it. It doesn't need to be perfect. They like being early. They like telling their friends and their clients that they were one of the first investors in XYZ.
I love
Totally different. Totally different. I hope that's helpful. This is like a really powerful slide.
This is so powerful. And your slides are so beautiful.
Thank you.
Is so on point.
Thank you.
I was talking to some family offices, and just asking their preferences and how they choose, the founders. And it was all like, just who do I want to do business with? Who can I feel like trust? And it's like so sad to me that all the other providers of data out there, you're like Preqin, PitchBook, Fintrex, like no startup founder, no emerging manager can afford that. And these family offices, they are like, all these emerging managers, they outperform, and they want to find, these startups that hold game-changing solutions.
That's right.
So
and hence why what you're doing is so valuable, Danielle, because there's a big gap.
Yes.
But there's a big gap here that someone needs to step in and say, hey, I see you and I see you, and I'm going to help it, I'm going to help make it easier for you to connect. And I think that we need more people
and you're
willing
like the
to
missing
stand up.
puzzle piece, because when people think like, oh, great, I got a list, like, boom, here's the email. You're like, no. So strategy and the storytelling, it's like the missing piece. You get those two and you are light years ahead.
That's right. It's a good combo. So there's another, point being, okay, Seth Godin's one of my faves. Everyone is not your customer or client or investor, and that's okay. And oh, by the way, this is bigger than the adoption curve. It's not just everyone's not your customer at the same time, which is what the adoption curve would tell you. There's also a component which says everyone's just not your customer.
Yes.
And you have to be okay with that. And if you're not okay with that, the odds are that your sales and marketing strategy is not going to work as well. And I want to talk about that. So when you tell stories, I think there's a perception that you're pitching, of course, right? And so it's about you. And that's also kind of something we need to flip, because a really powerful story is not about you. It's about your client.
Yeah, get out of your own way. Yeah.
That's right. There can only be one hero in the story.
Yeah.
So what happens is if you go in and you're making it all about you, guess what you're
My
doing?
performance, my stats, yeah.
You're competing with your client. You're competing for who's
Like
hero in this.
Lost opportunity to like make it about them,
Absolutely.
learn about them.
So
Yeah.
you're Yoda, okay? Luke Skywalker is your investor and you're Yoda. You're the guide. And so when you tell most of your stories, you are not the hero, okay? You put them at the center, and then you kind of show how you're taking them. They want to go from point A to point B, and you're going to help them get there, but it's not yours. You're not the hero of it. The only place that you are the hero of your story is your backstory. So like we did at the beginning. And I can't remember, let me just see if I have a slide about that. I don't think I do. So let me, oh, there's the aiming for the head. Let me spend a minute on this. So in the movies, the hero doesn't pick the guide. They're just assigned the guide. It's like Luke Skywalker wasn't like, there wasn't like a lineup of potential guides to help him, on his journey. It's just, yeah. But real world, there's a lineup. So the backstory is powerful because it says, you're the hero and I am a guide. And my backstory is going to help you choose me. It's going to help you figure out if I'm your guide.
Amazing. That connection.
Right?
Why
the connection. And, so like some people just might not vibe with me. And guess what? That's fine. I don't have to be everyone's guide. I am not for everyone. I am brave enough to attract and repel.
Oh, and it's supposed to be a true partnership. Like better to repel if it's upfront before you get into a partnership.
That's right. It will make your marketing more powerful if it's specific. So let's talk about how you make it specific. Because you're going to craft these stories around your ideal investor, you need to put yourself in their shoes. So of course you can do some work and figure out like, if you have investors, who are my kind of ideal clients that if I could clone them, I'd have like the best business on the planet. So demographics, like size of firm, where they're located and all that stuff. Yes. But also like, what is the problem you're really solving for them? And it's not going to be what's in your fund docs, long-term capital appreciation. Like that's not the problem. Okay. You really got to get much more granular on what is the specific problem you're solving. And even more so than that, why does it matter? Like, what's their psychographic? What do they think about? What keeps them up at night? What drives them? What are their values? What do they stand for? What do they stand against? If you layer in all of that, oh my gosh, your marketing is going to be ridiculous in a good way. Okay. So you got to put yourself in that hero's shoes in order to start crafting the sales and marketing piece. We already talked about this, this, but just a reminder. So we teach 5 stories to our clients. Backstory we did. I'm going to skip brand story for a second because it's the most difficult one. Job story is the story behind the strategy or fund you've created. You designed it to do something. What is it? It's kind of like, what problem does it solve? Okay. Impact story is a case study of that. So job story is, I designed this, like there's lots of fund managers say, hey, I designed this to solve a problem that I had, right? Even lots of businesses start because the founder had a problem and wanted to fix it. impact story would be, and then, I had this family office client and they had a similar problem, and you just kind of tell the whole story of how you met and what the problem was and why they chose you. So it brings it to life. The portfolio story is the same, except for a position or trade or something, company that's in your portfolio. So when you talk about your process, the portfolio story would bring that to life. So it's kind of like you can tell them, and then you show them with a story. Okay, so those are some of the stories. The brand story is the most difficult one because it's the shortest. And so it's basically like one sentence. I'll give you 2 ways you could try to get there. We help insert target market solve this problem by doing this thing to get this result. It's like a Mad Lib, okay?
Boom.
Right? It can get long. So you sometimes would just do the front half. We help target market solve this problem, boom. And then you can add the other pieces, but just watch that they get a little long in the tooth. That's why it's tough to write short things. Or you could say, how typical value managers do XYZ, or they don't keep up with the market, whatever it is. We fix that. We do this different, right? So you could start with a question, how, then insert what everyone else is doing, and then say, we are different than that, or we fix that. Or how you wish you had some protection in your portfolio when the market tanks, we fix that.
Powerful.
Okay, so 2 ways, if you want to practice that, I wanted to give you those. This is the story arc classic. And I try to break this down just into 3 things. If you want to work on telling stories, there's 7 stage story arcs. I'm going to give you 3. A relatable, likable hero is the very beginning. Encounters a challenge that they have to overcome, which they do, and emerge changed. That's it. It's a great story. Those things. There's all kinds of other elements that get added in. There's a guide, like we talked about, all these things. But a really basic story begins, faces a challenge, emerges changed. Transformation being the big part. And powerful stories have tension. Right. So there's tension, there's stakes, there's messy middle, right? That's what makes a great story. And I think, especially in this day and age, we try to edit that out. And that's not a compelling story. So don't forget the stakes. Okay, all the levels on that.
Keep it exciting.
That's right.
This
Okay.
is awesome.
This is just, do you recognize some of this?
This is awesome.
Yeah, right? This is what, again, this goes to
amazing. Can I have this slide? This just cracks me up. Yeah.
Okay, don't be this guy. Don't be this guy. All right, this is just a reminder not to be this guy. All right.
Oh, that's so good.
All right. Brene Brown, another fave of mine, because she writes all about authenticity and vulnerability. And I realize that some of the stuff I'm talking about today is very uncomfortable. Okay, it's hard telling stories. A lot of us, myself included, by the way, in the investment industry are introverts. It is really tough to do things like this and meet investors, and it's probably outside of your comfort zone, and that's okay. But you need to practice.
What I love about you, Stacy, is you just are so encouraging, and the fact that you admit that you're an introvert. I'm like, I don't believe you, but
no one does.
no one thinks I am either. But you're like, you do it, and it gets easier. Once you've done it,
it gets easier.
Yeah,
that's right. And it's not about perfect. That's the other thing, is you get so hung up on well, that's not really great, or that's not perfect, or I could do better. It's how you get better? You just try. You just try.
There you go.
And also, that's right. My friend Daniel Crosby, I don't know if you know him. He's been on a lot of my podcasts. I love talking to him. Yes. because he's a behavioral finance expert. And so I'll see things in the wild, so to speak, and he'll be like, well, that makes total sense because behavioral science is blah, blah, blah. So there's an episode, and I'll give Danielle this link too, where he
Awesome.
talks about the pratfall effect. And the
Mm,
pratfall effect basically says, I'll nutshell it for you, that people like, trust, do business, fill in. People like people who aren't perfect.
mm,
And that if you show up too polished and too guy smiley and the perfect suit with the
yeah.
watch and the things, it's
You don't trust
off-putting.
perfect.
No,
Yeah.
you don't. And so I hope that gives you some freedom and some comfort and some courage to like, it's okay to not be perfect. And it's okay if it's not perfect, whatever it is. Oh, this is a cool slide I wanted to share with you. Nancy Duarte is amazing. Female founder in Silicon Valley, one of the most successful female founders out there. And she's all about presentations. And I love this slide because it kind of is just another layer on the whole aim at the heart data, thing. And what she says is the presenter focuses on facts, but the receiver, so the storyteller, is all about the facts, and the listener, the audience, is really reacting more to the emotion. And the trick is to try to find an overlap between those things. So remember, it's not just story, story, story only. It's story-led, data-backed. Or it's like, here's my process, and here's a story that brings it to life.
Mm,
And so the other thing that's powerful with stories, and Danielle talked about this at the beginning, is that connection happens because of shared experience. And so when I share my story and say that I went to the wrong school and I got the wrong degree, and in many ways I felt like I didn't belong here for a long time in the investment world, lots of people relate to that,
and
right?
you're
They
being vulnerable.
connect.
I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, they connect with it because they go, I felt that too, or I
Yeah.
feel that too. But that doesn't have to be such a vulnerable thing. It could be like, I love jogging, or I love to cycle, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Finding those shared experiences creates connection. And that's really what you're trying to do, is to communicate from an overlap, whether that's stories, bringing things to life, or more personal connection points.
Mm,
Oh, I'm sorry. So nutshell of the whole thing
mm,
is people don't just buy what you do, they buy why you do it and who you are.
mm.
And I realize, again, this is a big shift, a big pivot from the sales and marketing playbooks and strategies that maybe the big firms use or you used at a previous firm. But as a boutique, there's nothing more powerful than giving your business a face, a heart, and a soul. And I hope I can be a part of that journey for you, whether it's things like this or LinkedIn or however I can. I wanted to leave you with one thing. And I don't know how to put this link in the chat, but I have some free content on my Stacy Havener website.
Yeah.
And this is a great one. It'll help you, kind of get in touch with how you can be more relatable, things you can talk about, some content pillars that you can weave into your sales and marketing. And so it's a free download. You can grab that. And certainly if we can be of more help, don't hesitate to reach out.
And the $1 billion backstory, Stacy's podcast
Oh, my podcast.
is,
Yeah.
I mean, just amazing. She interviews, just amazingly successful people that often come from very humble beginnings and shares their backstory. And it's, again, you just get to relate with the human, the
Yeah.
people, the stories behind the portfolios.
I
And
love that.
yeah,
It's
she
so
just
fun.
launched season 2. It was yesterday's episode was really amazing,
Yeah.
as
Thanks,
all are.
Danielle.
Yeah.
It's so true. And I hope you hear this and receive this as the listener, that you do matter. I just had a call with a friend who worked at Bloomberg for like 30 some odd years. And we were talking about this. Like, for many of us that worked at big companies or kind of or of a generation, I'll just say, Like, we've been taught that the firm is the thing. It's the firm. It's
right.
like that movie, right? The firm, the firm, the firm.
Yes.
And that's, well, it's not true, and certainly in this day and age,
Yeah.
people
Buy
matter.
from people. Yeah.
You matter. You matter.
100%. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, so many people have like sung your praise in the chat.
Ah!
These slides are beautiful. We want to work with you. But I
Oh,
don't see
that's
any
so great.
questions. If you guys want to drop any questions,
Yeah, happy to.
it's
Or I can tell, I can keep riffing, so
oh
don't worry
yeah.
about that if you need me to. I can tell you, we have this is like, we haven't really announced this, but whatever. We started a membership community. Danielle's actually gonna speak to our group, either next week or the week after.
Yeah.
And, yeah, you can get PDFs of the slides, sure.
Mhm.
And one of the things that came up yesterday as we were talking, was about this idea of being an introvert and knowing that you need to do sales and marketing and just how like opposed those two things are. And so I'll share with you what I shared with them.
Awesome.
And I said, you're gonna think this is crazy, but what I really want you to do is I want you to have a cup of coffee. That's it. That's the ask.
Yeah.
That's the ask. And don't go into it with like a preconceived thing of how I'm gonna, sell this person, because that's not what a cup of coffee is, right? A cup of coffee is you grab your beverage, you sit down, you ask the person how they're doing, what's going on in their life. And you let them talk, you let them go first, and
Oh,
then they're gonna, reciprocate. And you're gonna say, hey, well, I'm doing this thing, I'm a founder, I've had this firm, and blah, blah, blah. And I know this isn't a very huge leap of faith, but like the rest of it kind of takes care of itself.
mm. Knowing
You
how
don't
to
have to,
listen.
listen, and you don't have to like hard pitch all the time.
Yes.
Because guess what? If they like what you're doing, they're probably gonna say, that's cool, or like, wow, that's really interesting. Can I learn more about that? You don't have to be like, here's the hard pitch. What do you think? Right? Just
Right.
like, don't
Right.
try so hard. Just have
Right.
coffee.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I love that. Just go have
Okay.
coffee. Be
Go
two
have
human.
coffee.
Getting to know each
Yeah.
other.
That's right.
Yeah.
Be a person.
Yeah. Well, I cannot thank you enough, Stacy.
Oh,
This has
well, I see
been
questions, Danielle.
amazing. Are there some? Okay.
Yeah, let's see.
All right.
Um, there's Max has one.
Oh gosh.
Todd.
Okay, look at me. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you. Okay. I see from Emily. How
Okay.
are you, oh, and it's moving on me. How are you contextualizing the great wealth transfer to your clients?
Oh my God, Emily, that might be over my head. That might be over my pay grade.
Right?
Let me ask you a clarifying question. What does that mean? Do you mean the fact that like there's a generational shift between the family office, the original family members, and going to the second gen? Yeah, that thing. Yeah, got it.
Ah,
Okay, tracking.
yeah.
Sorry. Um,
I got you.
this is really interesting. We have a client that is they're like a boutique private bank, and this was something they talked about yesterday. Because it's not really an adoption curve thing, but remember the slide where we talked about like demographics and psychographics and that whole thing? There's a big difference between the original generation and the next gen, isn't there? And so what the next gen prioritizes or wants is not like an 800 number and a fancy lobby and like really jazzy materials. And,
Mahogany
and
desk.
so, and a mahogany desk and, layers of bureaucracy and paperwork and stuff. So that to me lends itself really well to what we're talking about today. Because think about what that second generation or even third generation grew up with. Social, Instagram,
Yes.
LinkedIn, connecting, quicker
Yeah.
response time, texting. Like there's so much in that question, Emily, that really lends itself to a different playbook. And I would say story-led, data-backed, and being more accessible and kind of being the face, being brave enough to do that. That's basically the gist. It just works for that wealth transfer too.
I love that. Ron Diamond on his masterclass brought up the fact that like we're in a different era, you know, he would just
Totally.
go buy a pair of jeans from Gap, but his daughters, because we're in this information era, they can literally like, before they want to buy anything, they want to know like, where was it made? How did they treat their employees? And it's, yeah, just a very, very different day and age.
Totally different.
All right, these things are moving quick. How do you deal with asset classes that are out of favor?
Oh, gosh, what a good one. Yeah, that's a gut punch every morning, isn't it?
Hmm.
Well, we had a value manager, we still have them. And I mean, you know, value, long only value has been just out of favor for what, 10, 15 years? And here's the thing, and you know what? A lot of value managers capitulated. They were like, this is too hard. It's tough to do. It's tough to raise money when you're out of favor, 100% true. And so the first piece of advice is just to keep showing up. Like, keep showing up, keep talking about it, acknowledge that it's a gut punch, acknowledge that it's totally out of favor, right? And that's point one. Like, don't hide. I think sometimes what we think as fund managers is, oh, gosh, I'm having a performance, you know, downturn, my asset class out of favor. I'm gonna go dark, and then I'm gonna come back out when I'm back in favor. Wrong. Be brave enough to stay there. Just stay alive and stay present. So that for sure. And then the second thing I would say is there are contrarian investors out there. They're few and far between. But if you stay present, they may find you. And then you actually still can raise money.
Awesome. Awesome answer. What do you feel is the best medium to tell the story, best platform and or method to connect with people?
Oh gosh, that's a great one. You know, I think some of this depends on you.
Yeah.
If you're introverted and you like to write, like me, or, you know, LinkedIn's great because you can, I don't want to say there's a buffer, but there kind of is because you're writing. You don't have to share, you know, an image. You don't have to do audio or video. If you're more comfortable doing this type of stuff, then video's great. Webinars are great. Podcasts are great. So part of it is just the most effective medium to share your story is whichever one you are going to be comfortable enough. I'm not saying you're going to be totally comfortable enough with to do it consistently.
Consistency
Right?
is key. Yeah.
Key.
I'm curious, have you ever just gotten burnt out on your LinkedIn posting? Have you taken breaks or?
Yeah,
Does the
definitely.
algorithm get mad at you?
Algorithm totally gets mad at you.
Yeah.
You know what I find though is I do take breaks, and I'm gonna go on holiday here in a couple weeks, and I'm contemplating even just this morning. I was thinking like, what should I do here? I'll tell you. So one of the things I'm thinking of doing, I want my team to be more encouraged to use LinkedIn. I think in part, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it could be like I'm so into it and it's such a big, it's kind of like my thing, and I don't want it to be that, you know? So anyway, I'm thinking of having a LinkedIn takeover, which they do on Instagram all the time, but they don't do that. Isn't that, so I'm like, maybe I can encourage my team.
They're gonna notice. We're like, wait, what happened?
I think I would have them say like, hi, it's, you know, it's Josh. Stacy's on holiday, but I'm taking over her LinkedIn today.
Do it. I think it will be so
You like
encouraging
that?
because we feel, it's like we have to allow ourselves permission to take a break. So
totally.
I would love
I
it.
think it would be fun for people too. So no one knows that yet, not even my team. So you know it first.
What I'm curious, are you vacation, spring break?
Yeah, I'm going. So we go to this very small fishing village in Jamaica every year. Like for 15 years. And it's so off the grid. There's like barely any people.
My style.
Yeah. So I'll be there reading. I'll take all the book recommendations and thinking.
Yes.
and
Her
relaxing.
Walker on here's got a lot of great book recommendations. You've got great book recommendations.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. I
um,
love to read.
oh, that sounds so dreamy. If your offer is less about seeking capital investment and more about mutual due diligence processes, i.e., we want to be an extension of your family office operations, how do you
Okay.
suggest tailoring the message of the story?
It's a great question. So more of
Yeah.
a service, not like a
Yes.
fund per se. It
Yeah.
still works. So the framework still works. But the actual story obviously is going to be different. But the idea of you have a hero, which is the family office, and they have a problem, whatever the problem is, and you're kind of the guide to help them get where they want to go. So the big thing, that it was like a Harvard professor that did it, which was this the putting a hole in the wall. Are you selling the drill or the hole in the wall? That whole thing. So I've always had a problem with that. Now, I mean, they're right. Like, don't sell the drill, which is selling the features and benefits, sell the hole in the wall. But when I think about it, I'm like, well, I don't actually want a hole in the wall. So don't sell me the hole in the wall. What I actually want is to hang a beautiful piece of art or a gorgeous mirror in my room so that when I come into that room, I feel something. So do you see the difference? It's like when you do the last piece of the story, I have the hero, they have a problem, and this is the transformation. Or I saw somebody talk about like, the evolution or the big kind of surprising change. How can you tap into that? And one
Mm,
of the ways you can do it is ask your clients. Just
mm.
like call them up, not a survey, but like just call, hey, cup of coffee, and like tell me, how is life better after working with us? And you might
Wow.
be surprised by what you hear, like things that you didn't really anticipate. And then this is a huge hack right here. Whatever words they give them back. Don't edit it, don't change it, don't say, oh, I could say it better. No, no, no. They've
Mm.
told you exactly how they would say it, and I want you to use those exact words in your sales and marketing.
Ooh,
Yeah,
such a good
yeah.
little nugget there. I am sorry, Christopher, the way I have to set this Zoom up, he asked if they could ask face to face. I
Oh,
do hate that about the webinars. I hate that, like,
yeah. You
it's
can't
you or
turn the
me.
video on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you're able to articulate your question, Christopher, we would love, and I'm sure Stacy won't mind having any follow-up,
Yeah, happy to.
following this. Let's see, Teresa, she totally agrees that connections are formed through shared experiences. What would you suggest are the best story selling framework for a startup founder who lacks an impact story or portfolio story when
Oh,
pitching to family offices or other investors?
sorry, I'm spilling my water all over myself.
Mm.
That's the pratfall effect, not intentional. That's a great one. Okay, so you're gonna have to hypothetical this one. It's Teresa, right, that asked the question?
Yes, Teresa.
Okay, Teresa, you're gonna have to hypothetical this one. Um, so let's say on the portfolio side, you've identified targets that you would invest in or something. So you could just kind of say, like, here's my process, even though you haven't technically used it yet, that's fine. You still have a process. And as I grow my business, because I will, one of a company, I'm not exactly sure what you do, but a company that we might allocate to would be something like this, and describe it or name it or whatever. So kind of pretend like you have the money and pretend you were going to allocate it and kind of tell that story as if it occurred. And kind of the same thing on the client side, but you don't want to lie about it, obviously. But you could say, right now, we feel like, look at your sales funnel. Kind of do the same exercise that I'm talking about here, but on your prospect list, and ask yourself, like, which prospects are really vibing with what we're talking about, and do the same exercise with that. Like, this is the group that we seem to be resonating the most with, and do it that way. Like, for example, there's this family office, and we met with them, here's what we connected over, and here's the problem they have. And so it's almost like,
Mm.
but be honest that it's not real yet.
Right. Totally relatable. I see some people have given you book recommendations. I love
Yay.
the Story Brand by Donald Miller. That's
I
like
love that
your
book.
go-to. I bought it as per your recommendation. I love it. It's
Yeah.
like sitting by my bed.
Yeah.
And then who was it? Ken Getty gave you two. They're newer
Oh,
ones.
yeah.
Oh,
Can you send me the
I
list?
wrote them down. Yeah, I'll
Okay,
send you
thank
those
you.
two that he recommended.
And I'd love to get the questions too, because you're all gonna help me. I'll write LinkedIn content for the questions I
There
didn't
you
get to. How about
go.
that?
I
How about
know,
that?
amazing. I know we're coming quick on time. I see there's two more. Um, let's see. In your experience, as per the context of a new fund with little AUM, how is that typically perceived by prospective investors, and what are some of the challenges you often hear from them in this regard?
Yeah. How much time do we have? Like, there's so many challenges. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, and this is why like lots of people who help funds raise money don't help startups, because it's like, you'll hear this, like, call me when you have 100 million in 3 years, or call me when you have 300 million in 5 years, whatever it is. I think that's just a nice way to like stop the conversation, really.
Mm,
But to your question though, I think some of it is, who are you talking to?
mhm.
Because if the person that you're talking to is, go back to that adoption curve on the other side of the curve, the challenges they're going to give you are real, but they're sort of like, I don't want to say they're not real. It's just like, for that investor, that type of investor, the fact that you don't have a lot of AUM, the fact that it's a new fund, they may not be willing to take those types of risks. But if you turn your attention to your founders network, people you've worked with, kind of that whole friends and family idea. If you turn your attention to family offices, it's not that every family office is going to be like, this is fabulous. That's not true. And I saw someone saying that, like, if you know one family office, you know one family office, that's all.
Yeah.
But in general, your chances of finding a partner in that space are greater than if you were calling on, a big consultant. So the challenges you probably know and you probably hear, I think what I'm suggesting is, don't worry about that, because you can't fix it. You're not going to just materialize track record. You're not going to just materialize 100 million of AUM or materialize a big team. Just keep going and try talking to different types of investors, and the challenges will either not be there or will change. But that's my advice.
Amazing advice. So good. Well, I see it as 12 and I want to be respectful of your time. This has been nothing short of amazing, Stacy. I can tell from all the chitty chatter going on, but I'm just so grateful. I've been learning from you for years, and I'm so happy to be able to share your knowledge with our network. And yeah, you're just
Oh, thank you. You're a great
delightful.
group. I mean, I wish I could see your faces, but I'm
I
sending
know,
so much
exactly.
high five and hugs, and it's hard work, and you're doing it. You're doing it. Don't give up.
Yeah,
Thank
follow
you,
suit. Be
Danielle. This has
really
been
encouraged.
amazing. Okay,
Yes, thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Bye, guys.
bye.